You've done this 100 times without noticing. Someone walks into a room, and before they've said a single word, you've already decided they're probably smart, probably kind, probably successful. Your brain built an entire personality out of nothing but a face, but the real answer to why is far stranger than simple attraction. It's not that beauty makes you shallow, it's that your brain has a shortcut, and beauty happens to be the trigger that fires it hardest. In 1920, a psychologist named Edward Thorndike was studying something that had nothing to do with beauty at all. He was working with military officers, asking commanders to rate their soldiers across a range of separate traits: intelligence, leadership, physical ability, character. In theory, these were unrelated categories. A soldier could be strong, but not particularly bright, sharp, but not especially disciplined. But that's not what Thorndike found. The ratings clustered together almost perfectly. If a commander rated a soldier highly on one trait, that same soldier tended to get high marks across every other trait too, regardless of whether those traits had any logical connection to each other. Thorndike gave this pattern a name. He called it the halo effect. One single strong impression, radiating outward, quietly rewriting judgments about categories that impression had nothing to do with. Does that sound familiar? It should, because more than 50 years later, two psychologists took Thorndike's idea and pointed it directly at something universal: physical attractiveness. In 1972, Karen Dion, Ellen Burscheid, and Elaine Walster ran a study that would end up defining this entire field. They showed participants photographs of people they'd never met, rated in advance as more or less physically attractive. Then they asked a simple question. Based on nothing but the photo, what do you think this person's life is actually like? The results weren't subtle. Participants consistently rated the more attractive faces as more likely to have successful careers, more likely to be good parents, more likely to be socially confident, even more likely to be happy in their marriages. None of that information was in the photograph. There was no resume, no biography, no evidence of parenting skills or marital satisfaction, just a face and an entire imagined life built on top of it in seconds. The researchers gave the finding a phrase that's stuck ever since: what is beautiful is good. Here's the detail that should really bother you. This effect isn't limited to harmless assumptions about someone's personality at a party. It reaches into places you'd expect to be protected from it entirely. In 1980, a researcher named John Stewart studied real criminal court cases and found that defendants who were rated as more physically attractive received significantly shorter sentences than less attractive defendants, even when the severity of the crime was held constant. The same crime, different sentence. The only meaningful variable was how the courtroom happened to perceive the defendant's face. Think about what that means. A judgment your brain makes in a fraction of a second based on nothing but bone structure and symmetry was quietly nudging outcomes in a system that's supposed to weigh evidence, not appearances. So, why would your brain do this? It seems almost designed to fail you, but it's not a flaw exactly. It's a shortcut, doing what shortcuts are built to do: save you time at the cost of accuracy.
Your brain evolved constantly making snap judgments about strangers because in most of human history, there wasn't time for a full character reference before deciding whether to trust someone standing in front of you. Symmetry, clear skin, and certain proportions were, on average, weak but real signals of health and genetic fitness. So evolution built a heuristic. Attractive features correlate loosely with good traits, therefore assume the correlation holds and skip the slower analysis. The problem is that heuristic doesn't know when to stop generalizing. It doesn't just whisper healthy, it whispers smart, trustworthy, competent, kind, dragging unrelated judgments along for the ride, the exact same way Thorndike's soldiers got dragged along by one strong first impression. And once you know to look for it, you start seeing the halo effect everywhere. Modern life runs on quick judgments. Job candidates rated as more attractive are, on average, perceived as more competent before they've answered a single interview question. Teachers in blind grading studies have given noticeably higher marks to essays when they believed the student was more attractive. Identical essay, different grade, purely based on a photo clipped to the paper. Political candidates who are rated as more conventionally attractive tend to receive a small but measurable advantage in vote share, even when their stated policies are held constant across conditions. None of these people did anything to earn the extra trust. Their faces did the earning for them, automatically, invisibly, in the very first second anyone looked at them. Here's the twist, and it's the part that reframes everything. The halo effect isn't actually about beauty at all. Beauty is just the most universally available trigger. The same distortion happens with confidence, with height, with a deep voice, with a firm handshake, with a nice suit, with anything that reads as a single strong positive signal. Your brain doesn't distinguish between this person is attractive and this person seems impressive when it decides how much unearned trust to hand out. Any sufficiently strong first impression can trigger the same halo, radiating the same unjustified confidence across categories that first impression never actually touched. Which means the real question isn't why do we trust attractive people more, it's how much of what you believe about anyone you've just met is actually built on evidence, and how much of it is a halo, quietly filling in the blanks your rational brain hasn't had time to check yet. You've done this 100 times without noticing. Someone walks into a room, and before they've said a word, you've already decided who they are. But the halo was never really about their face. It was about how little evidence your brain actually needs before it's willing to build you an entire person out of nothing at all.